This week on the Powell Not Found podcast, we're talking about the release of One Hand Clapping, some biking over the weekend, and the automated strike zone. And, of course, we'll talk about Yankees Red Sox, and the Red Sox are currently up 3-1 and might take this series. Let's hope that changes. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
I'm gonna tell you a story about a girl who loves gin. A national pandemic seized her birthday celebration. Although she knew it was coming, we tried not to tell her. She brewed some Irish breakfast tea. She knew her birthday was getting corona.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Powell Not Found podcast, episode 24, episode Tino Martinez. If you remember that he was number 24 on the Yankees for a long, long time. And welcome to the show, everybody. This is Sunday night. We're recording kind of late. We're recording late in the day, so we can use those lights in the background. If you're watching the video version of this podcast available on YouTube, you can see that it's a little bit of a light blue hue in the back, which is the definition of technological progress, right, for this set. So thank you guys for joining the show. Again, subscribe on Apple Podcasts and wherever you get podcasts, and also on the YouTube channel, and help make this channel grow. Thankful for all of you guys that are subscribing and watching the shorts online. It really seems to be doing pretty well. So thank you guys for helping me grow this thing over the last 25 weeks we've been doing this show, which is kind of hard to believe. So I kind of am at that point where I can't remember exactly everything I've said or covered on the show. So I'm assuming at this point there's going to be a lot of duplicative topics that we'll cover, and maybe I just won't know that we've talked about it, because 25 weeks of talking is a long, long time if actually you really, really think about it. But this next topic that we're going to be talking about, which is, again, one that's close to my heart, because we get to talk a little bit about the Beatles. And it's always easy for me to talk and kind of germinate over some of their releases. And now that Paul McCartney is getting older, I think it's getting a little bit more nostalgic. We benefit from these collections coming out, these anthologies coming out of old records that have just been lost to time. And, of course, I'm talking about the release of One Hand Clapping. If you don't know what this is, then you're probably a normal person. If you're a Beatles nut, like I am, you probably didn't know what this was. If you're a Beatle fanatic, you knew exactly what this was, because this was a 1974 release that was bootlegged for years online and released in non-professional terms, right? Like, it was never on tape. It was never on vinyl. It was a film that Paul McCartney made while he was kind of enjoying the release of Band on the Run, and he decided to make a go at staging a Let It Be-esque film documentary about his new group, Wings. If you've never heard about it, it's okay, because I had never heard about it until I started reading a lot of the stuff online about what exactly this was. I would see this come every now and then. I would see like a bonus track from Band on the Run or a re-release that, or one of those, the first set of re-releases that Paul McCartney did with a lot of his music had bonus tracks, and some of them would say One Hand Clapping. I would have no idea what it was. But apparently in 1974, McCartney brought a video film crew in, a la Let It Be in 1969, to tape them playing some music, and make a live concert CD. Apparently it didn't work. Apparently they captured a lot of footage, but it ended up being shelved for the world tour that they were going to go on and embark on, and they started making more music, and it was just kind of forgotten to time. I had first seen this surfing YouTube probably as like a 15-year-old or 14-year-old or whatever, whenever YouTube was nascent and It was just Wild Westy kind of stuff. And somebody had uploaded a clip of Paul McCartney at a piano singing songs from the 20s, or singing songs that sounded like they were from the 20s. And I was fascinated from this clip because I was like, surely at this point, everything had been unearthed. Everything had been, you would know the derivation of it. But there wasn't that much information on this thing aside from one hand clapping, which was very odd to me. And I was like, okay, this must have been some sort of side project that was shelved. Turns out it was, right? And the clip that I had seen was this one of McCartney. Let me see if I can bring this up here. Let me see. Let me go full screen here. If I'm jumping around, that's fine. It's late at night, so let me push here, and then let me bring this up. And McCartney was singing some songs, a song called Suicide, a song called I'll Give You a Ring, a song called All of Love, or All My Love, and also there's another one on there too. And they were fascinating songs, little clips of songs for me. But I remember running into this clip and being like, what is this from? Turns out it was one hand clapping. Let's see here, listen to a little bit of it, and hopefully it doesn't get completely deleted or anything like that from the YouTube archive.
It for a career. The obvious thing was kind of Sinatra, Tony Bennett, to do the big singer bit. In cabaret.
It's good to actually cut in here and say that when I first encountered this clip online, because of the voiceover, because of the production value, I had just assumed it was an interview from a long time ago that captured a long-form version of him playing, right? I'd never thought in a million years that this was actually a project that they had commissioned, that they wanted to do something Let It Be-esque. And it's really fascinating because it is really pure Paul McCartney post all the harshness of the Beatles breakup, post Ram, post Wildlife, where it doesn't seem like he has his footing. This is pure like, hey, prime, I'm a confident musician, Paul McCartney, after the Beatles breakup. And it's really, really fun to watch just as a musician, to see him just kind of riding, like a lot of people have been saying online, riding that high of Band on the Run to success. He has broken into something of his own. But let's take a listen to a little bit of the music here so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about.
If when she tries to run away and he calls her back, she gone. If there's a next time, he's okay, 'cause she's under both his thumbs. She limp along to his side, singing a song of ruin. I bet he's just nothing doing. I call it suicide.
And that's probably all I can play before somebody flags me on YouTube. It's a 10-minute clip of just him singing songs of kind of like an older age. Turns out he wrote them, right? I had not actually seen any of these things released. Another song that's a little bit later in that clip called I'll Give You a Ring comes out on a bonus track somewhere along the line of Tug of War in the 80s when he dolls it up. And he might have dolled all these songs up too, and I'm just unaware of what time he did this, but that song did not make One Hand Clapping's release, but the rest of the songs did make the album. And that is from the video, right? That's from the actual film that was produced and never was released and somehow got out and was circulating everywhere. So finally, after years, now 50 years have passed since 1974, finally, they decided to release One Hand Clapping as a compilation. And it's a really, really cool album. It's a really... It plays like it's a concert. It plays like you're kind of a fly on the wall, right? This is what I think he wanted Let It Be to be. He wanted Let It Be to be, you stepped into the room and you're hearing musicians work it out. And the curious thing is, when you start hearing them kind of call back classics or slow things down, vary things up, there's a very, very good example of them varying the songs up with Sea Moon and Little Woman Love and slowing it down a little bit. Alternate versions of Maybe I'm Amazed and My Love. Bluebird seems it's fully formed, but it sounds a little bit different. Jet has a very strong synth. You can see just how different everything sounds and everything feels. It feels like you're at a live concert and you're watching it, right? There's some Beatle callbacks in here. There's Let It Be. There's Long and Winding Road. There's Lady Madonna, albeit they're pretty short. They're very small, quick versions of them that appear on the album. But you're really seeing the beginning of what ends up becoming Wings, and what really culminates with, after Band on the Run, Venus and Mars, Wings at the Speed of Sound. You're seeing this band coalesce in this album, and it's really, really cool. There's a lot of songs like Solely. I had always heard, just from listening to other Paul McCartney documentaries, to people that knew about it. But it's fun to hear just how raw and how good the music sounds on this one. And as a person who writes songs, I love hearing the different versions of the songs outside of the record, not in a live environment, because you really get to hear the musician raw. Like, that's the definition of raw. Like, they're letting loose. They're in a studio. They're in a safe place. They're not performing for anybody. They're really doing it just because they love to. And this is what you get here. Yeah, it's a little bit fabricated, of course, because of the conceit. There are cameras in there. It's not going to be the most genuine, right? They're performing for someone, for something, for a product. But, man, it gets pretty damn close to being a raw Paul McCartney album right off the bat. I'm really glad a lot of these things are finally getting a release, because that bootleg for years, I was like, where does this come from? Did I just make this up? Was it a fever dream and 3 or 4 Paul McCartney songs were just released and no one cared? Really, really interesting stuff. This is the track listing goes as follows. It says on his website here, paulmccartney.com, 50 years after their initial recording, the sessions for Wings, one hand clapping released for the very first time. The track list: one hand clapping, Jet, Solely, Sea Moon, Little Woman Love, Maybe I'm Amazed, My Love, Bluebird, Let's Love, All of You, I'll Give You a Ring. Notice how Suicide, that song, which I believe he had said in a previous interview that he tried to give that song to Frank Sinatra, and Frank Sinatra wasn't having it because of, it's kind of a morbid song. Keep on Going, Band on the Run, Live and Let Die, 1985. A little quick note about that 1985. You hear it raw, the raw take that they must have used on Band on the Run. That song kind of famously kind of coalesced into a orchestration that kind of blends into Band on the Run, and you can hear the Band on the Run stripped out. They clearly added that in post, and it's kind of interesting to hear it without the actual bleed into the rest of the song. Babyface, which again was from that bootleg video where I was like, where's this from? Let Me Roll It, Blue Moon of Kentucky, Power Cut, Love My Baby, Let It Be, Long and Winding Road, Junior's Farm, Sally G, Tomorrow, Go Now, Wildlife, High, High, High. And then the bonus disc, Blackpool, Blackbird, Country Dreamer, 20 Flight Rock, Peggy Sue, and I'm Gonna Love You Too. Really, if you're getting the vinyl, it's a really, really good package for someone that really likes to hear the entire catalog. Also, another takeaway too from seeing all these songs, and I think it kind of makes sense why I enjoy Paul McCartney so much, because if you look at the actual track list, the songs are so different from one another. Like Jet and Sally G are like on two different sides of a spectrum that I can't, you almost can't even believe that it's the same artist. I think that's what really I like about him. It feels like when you're listening to a Paul McCartney album, you're listening to 7 different bands, because his inspiration, the type of music, it can be anything. You know, it could be Let It Be, Helter Skelter, right? It could be Long and Winding Road, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Totally different. Just completely crazy. And I think that's why I like it. It's just so eclectic. It's so different, and it's not the same. I mean, so many bands have one hit and they try to duplicate that hit over and over and over and over again, and they don't vary. And I think that's what makes the Beatles and Paul McCartney in particular so special, because it's not the same sound every single time. Every track is like a new canvas, and it's a new painting coming out each time. It's amazing. I just think it's amazing. So anyways, this is One Hand Clapping. Some really odd album cover artwork, which is not exactly explained. It's some sort of angel mannequin wearing headphones with one wing and then something else in the other hand. It's a very odd album cover. And in fact, I actually tried to go find this album out in the wild, because albums are back, right? Albums are the new zeitgeist. You know, what's old is new again, right? And finally was like, you know what? I'm going to go out and try to find this album. I'm going to try to buy it. Couldn't find it anywhere. It was just released 2 days ago, completely gone. But I ended up, where are they? Inadvertently, while looking for this album, I ended up picking up 2 different albums. One was a old copy of Wings at the Speed of Sound, which would be, you know, after this is, you know, in the timeline, there's Venus and Mars, and then there's Wings at the Speed of Sound, which is a very, very interesting and good album. This album actually is notorious because I think they got criticism that Wings was just a band name that really meant Paul McCartney. So a lot of these tracks on Wings of the Speed of Sound are the actual Wings band members that didn't get a lot of play. So this was like a direct response into, hey, it's not just Paul McCartney. It turns out it was just Paul McCartney. And then I ended up getting and picking up, because it was cheap, it was on sale. And that's the other thing too about these albums. Very expensive. When I picked up the Taylor Swift album, I was actually quite shocked about how high the sticker price is for these vinyls. Yes, I guess I get it's a novelty, but there isn't. How many places are there really to buy CDs anymore? Right, cassettes are no longer a thing, and I always felt like there was a cheaper alternative somewhere, and CDs are. And people will say, "Hey, you can get this for free if you pay $15.99." Right, that's where I listen to it on streaming. Right, but like if you want some sort of physicality to your music, right, the CDs don't really do it anymore. The vinyls are so attractive. I just feel like they're a little expensive. Like if it was $45, if it was $30, I feel like it would be more of a, yeah, I'm going to go buy that. Hey, you pay your price. $45 is a little bit intense for a record. And maybe they're not all like that. Maybe this is just because it's a double LP. You know, this is what the price is at. I still feel like they should be a little bit cheaper. But anyways, I ended up picking up too McCartney 3 Reimagined, which is another one that I don't think that people should sleep on. Today I was singing the what I consider the best track from McCartney 3, The Kiss of Venus. And this is an interesting album that he released a couple years ago. During the pandemic, he released McCartney 3, and which was, him working on songs during lockdown. And then a clever conceit is that he took all those songs and gave it to like more current artists and had them transform the songs into their own. And I, at the time, again, I didn't buy this album, but since it kind of went down in price, I was like, yeah, I got to get it. But you have Beck, Dominic Feek, Phoebe Bridges, St. Vincent on this album, Josh Homme, Idris Elba. Idris Elba's jamming out on this album. So again, if you haven't listened to this, take a listen. Listen to McCartney 3 and then listen to this. It's an interesting partnership. It's an interesting back and forth between listening to the original version and then seeing what somebody else comes up with. You know, it's like watching reading the book and then watching the play. You know, it's two different experiences, but it's the same thing. It's really cool. So don't sleep on that album. One Hand Clapping. I'm really enjoying, I think I said this before, but I'm really enjoying all these like kind of nostalgia look backs of these classic albums. I mean, the Beatles have been doing it for a long time in different versions and different iterations. They Let It Be, Get Back, the restoration of the films and the release of all the footage. It's great to be living in this time where you really appreciate the music. You maybe didn't live through it, but you're living through it again with all these re-releases. When I first got into the Beatles, I got into the Beatles right when they were doing the original anthology. And again, I still think that those anthologies were seminal for me as a musician because it made me realize that the final track that you're listening to is a culmination of hours of work, right? That you're listening to the final product. You're not seeing the drafts, right? And something about these anthologies and these retrospectives and these look backs, and not to say that One Hand Clapping is not finished, but it's their versions of things that sound a little bit off. They're not record perfect. It makes you realize that just songs, like anything else, are a molded craft. It's a piece of pottery. You start off with a block of clay, and eventually you keep on going and going and going and going, and eventually you get to the vase. There's a... Sorry, I had to mute. There is a constant... you're constantly reworking the product to make it sound good. So you're never coming out with an immediate hit right away. But you're working it, you're editing it, and eventually you get to that perfect product. I think that's what these things are showing, and that's what makes them so interesting. But anyways, go check it out. If you haven't checked out the songs, listen to it. If you're a Beatles head like me, go check out One Hand Clapping. It's a really, really fun listen. And again, it takes you on a journey where you're like, this is not just straight rock. It's not just... It's just different every time. I actually listened to Dua Lipa's Radical Optimism the other day. And one of my biggest takeaways was that some of the songs were great. I really liked some of the songs, but they were very much of the same ilk, right? Felt like they were pumped out of the same factory a little bit. This does not feel that way. You were going to go on a journey on each track. It's very, very different. Still all rock, right? A little bit of country mixed in. But it sounds different from track to track. You might be 70s hard rock and then all of a sudden back in the 30s and wanting to dance with a partner in a club, in a jazz club. It's very, very different, and I think that's why I enjoy it so much. So go check out One Hand Clapping. That released on June 14th. It's Paul McCartney and Wings, and eventually, when record prices come down, I will go and have this and add it to my record collection. I actually want to ask the audience one thing, too. If anybody gets this far in the audience, I want to ask them what should be in everyone's record collection. Like, what's the one record that somebody should go out and go find, right? Because a lot of my records in the back, they are Beatles, they're Elton John, they're Paul Simon. I've got Jimi Hendrix in there. I've got Amy Winehouse. I've got different things in there, but a lot of them are Beatles, right? A lot of them are old. But what's the one thing that you're like, I got to have this? Is it a Michael Bublé record? Is it a Beatles record? Is it Simon and Garfunkel? Do you have to have a Taylor Swift one in your album collection? What is the one record that you would say, hey, if you don't have, go get? That's what I'm curious about. Because I want to make this record collection more varied, and I'm really, really curious about that. So let's take a quick break. We are going to, when we come back, we're going to be talking about a little bit of biking down the Virginia trails here and the automated strike zone, and we're going to be talking about the Red Sox-Yankee game. Currently, bottom of the fifth, still 3-1, and Aaron Judge has homered for his 26th homer of the year, and hopefully the Yankees will pull something else. But let's take a quick break here, and we'll be right back. Okay, bye. Hey, and welcome back to episode 24 of the Powell Not Found podcast. I'm your host, Mark Powell, with you once again. We're going to be talking a little bit about biking, and then we're going to be talking about the automated strike zone, something that I kind of want to really get into because Gerrit Cole just experienced it in a minor league rehab start, and I felt like that was like the perfect opportunity to start talking about this kind of thing going forward and what it might do to the game. But first I wanted to kind of ask, because I went on a really nice bike ride in the weekend, got 17 miles in, and was biking on the trail, and constantly, I realized for years, because I've been biking for a long time, and I was always the slowest one. Always the slowest biker. Even when I was like with my friends, and when I was like 15, 14 years old, I really never knew how to bike. Right? Never knew how to actually properly shift. I've been looking on YouTube videos to be like, how do you get faster? And I think what I'm starting to understand is that when you live close to a bike path, and a big one at that, right? You start to see a lot of people have better equipment than you do, right? And I'm not talking about like, oh, they bought the better Huffy at Target or Toys R Us, right? I'm talking about real bikes. Like these are professional bikes, right? And so I went all in, I think last year, and I bought myself an FX1 and a Trek bicycle, and it works really, really well. I feel like I can kind of get there faster. And I used to ride on another older Trek, and even that bike, you could tell the difference when you upgrade from a Schwinn or a Huffy or whatever other kind of bike there is to an actual bike that is built with a lighter frame. You just feel it work faster, work better. It's like playing the guitar. Like if you have $100 guitar and you upgrade to $1,000 guitar, yeah, you're going to feel the difference. You're going to feel the craftsmanship more than you would otherwise. I can't speak to upgrading from like a $2,000 to a $3,000 guitar, because that's insane, and probably the difference is minimal. I think at that point you're probably a pretty good player. You could probably make $100 guitar sing, but there's got to be difference in craftsmanship, and that's what I feel like is happening with the bike. Anyway, long story short, I think getting on the trail has made me realize that as I've gotten older and I've gotten better at biking, I realize that no matter what the equipment is that I have, there are always going to be people that are going to be going faster than you, right? Somehow conquering these hills with somewhat ease. And I always wondered, I'm like, is it like a physical fitness kind of thing? Which I believe it is, right? I believe there's some part of the fact that, like, listen, they've got less weight to kind of push. They're going to be going up the hills a little bit faster. But I'm starting to believe that, like, if those $1,000, $2,000 bikes, I think they're just better machines, right? I think they just get the job done faster and make the ride easier. Now, not everybody's in a position, obviously, to get a $2,000 bike or a $1,000 bike or even a $500 bike, right? Like, I consider myself lucky that I'm able to even do that and make that kind of investment, right? But it is one of those things where I wish that when you walked into a bike shop, there were cheaper alternatives that seem to get the job done that aren't crazy. And this is the point I'm getting into, is the more bike shops I walk into around my area, the more I realize that they're getting expensive. There's like no entry level nice bike that somebody can actually get into it without spending a heap of money. And I kind of find that sad, especially coming after 2 years ago during the pandemic, when bikes were hard to find. It was like a bartering system at some point. Like, I remember walking outside of a bike shop being like, somebody's like, I've got two wheels. All I need is a frame. I'm like, okay, calm down, right? Like it was getting kind of crazy. There were lines to just get bikes, and the supply was just gone. Now that that's calmed down, the fact that the prices are so high, it just kind of feels like, man, this is a lot of money to spend on something that, 6 months out of the year you're going to use, and then it's going to stay in storage. But that being said, I do wish that there would be a cheaper alternative that wasn't just Trek. I feel like I've searched a long time, and it's just Trek that seems to have like a $500 entry-level bike, and I feel like that's just too much money for a nice bike. And the people that are spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, I'd like to say, I'd love to ride it because I want to know what the difference is. Is it just hype? Or is this thing really, really different on the trail? Anyways, getting back to the point, did a 17-mile bike ride, had a really, really enjoyable time. I feel like when you do those bike rides, I've fallen into a cadence of you have to bike to a destination. You have to bike to a place where you're going to drink beer. Because what's the point of burning calories if you're not just going to put them back on? You have to find those places that are going to break up the trip. Otherwise, the trip is not worth it, right? There are some people that are gunning it down the trail, going very, very fast, and you always look at them going are you in the Tour de France? Do you realize that you're not in the competition? You're in a bike trail. Why are you going that fast? And I always wonder if they're just trying to do it for distance, if they're trying to outpace themselves. But personally, I feel like if you're not going for drinks, if you're not going to go drink some beers at the end of it, if you're not constantly hopping from brewery to brewery on the bike trail, you're just doing it wrong. And that is my TED Talk about biking this weekend. This is all to say that I had a great time, and I had a lot of beer in me, and I biked, and I don't think I burned 1 calorie, and that's okay, because that's what having fun is on the weekend. So, anyways, let's move on to our next topic. This is the automated ball and strike zone. A lot of talk has been, since Angel Hernandez has retired, a lot of talk has been going on surrounding robot umps, using this technology that's been seemingly shoved into the game and using it to make sure that calls are right. Now, that's probably never going to happen in general. There's always going to be some sort of human element in the game. I think even Rob Manfred has said as much, that even if they do bring the automated balls and strike zone, they're not getting rid of the human element of the game. Some things will be just complete judgment calls. That said, we got a little taste of it during a Gerrit Cole rehab start. And let me actually push to this. I took away my fade. And let's play a little clip of this. Let's rise up the computer sound. And this is the batter calling for a ball strike review. And so the way the batter does that and communicates to the umpire that they want to challenge the call is a little tap on their helmet. It's still getting ironed out. I don't think that they have an infinite amount of times that they can do this. And God, I hope that they don't. Because baseball has been doing such a good job making the game, what's the word I'm looking for? Bearable. Yeah, and remember, I'm a baseball fan. I used to play baseball. By the way, it's 4-2 Boston in the top of the sixth. So that is a good update. Jose Trevino homering. Eight homers. He's on fire, man. Anyways, back to the point. The ABS system, they're not going to have an infinite amount of times. It might work kind of like the challenge system that's currently in place for plays, where you have one challenge. If you lose your challenge, and that's it, right? It's not infinite. And God, it can't be. They again, like I said, baseball's been doing such a good job making it bearable that introducing something that basically elongates the game would be just dumb. And not only do I think that the human element is important, a lot of times I feel like the entertainment comes from the fact that it's the human element that is making the game entertaining. I mean, if everything is called right, there are no arguments left in sports, right? If everything is calculated and everything is perfect all the time, we might not see a good product, right? We're already hearing reports that offense is down just because of how perfect the strike zone is and how the pitchers have to essentially nail it And so people like, what's the incentive to swing at that point? Which is, again, like another kind of issue where this might make me sound like the, just complaining to complain, but man, batters got to hack up there to make something happen. You do not want to see a league where people are only looking for walks. Good God, going station to station baseball is almost worse than a 4-hour game. Anyways, so Gerrit Cole delivers a pitch, and you'll see the batter. If you're watching the YouTube version of the show, you'll see the batter signal on his helmet, and let's go ahead and play that clip here. And this is brought to you by the Talkin' Yanks guys over in John Boy Media, so thank you for aggregating this because finding it after the fact has been difficult. So thank you to John Boy Media. So
curveball bends in for a strike, 0-1. It's not the all-time high for Cole. Cole struck out 300 men one year for the Astros. Big strikeout pitcher, and that last pitch was challenged.
Oops. Hold on. Maybe this had no audio. So let me go play it again so I can actually hear it this time. My bad. This is production on the fly. By the way, if the break didn't have music, that's why, because I was soloing my thing. So maybe I'll have to edit all that back in post. Hopefully not. Hopefully that's just a me thing.
Alex Cole, the hitter, in the pitch. Curveball bends in for a strike, 0-1. That is not the all-time high for Cole.
See him tap his helmet. They'll go up to the booth.
1 year for the Astros.
Oh, and then graphic comes.
Last pitch was challenged by Alex Cole, and he was wrong. So the Wings lose their
broadcaster
first challenge of the
misspoke.
night. Would be very
Batter
interesting
won
to see
the
what
challenge,
Cole
and they're
thinks of
back.
this whole challenge thing. Alex.
So that's cool. I guess that's cool. Hey, you can change the pitch, right? I mean, it's just hard for me to reckon, and I don't know why I've used that term, but it's hard for me to reckon that this would be something that would make the game better. And a lot of people would say, hey, look at Angel Hernandez, look at how many calls he missed, look how many calls. That was like the biggest version of that, right? There are many umps in the league right now doing a fine job that are not being publicly called out the way he was. That being said, that was still 20 extra seconds. Depending on how many times this happens during a game and how many times somebody's right, you're adding time to the game to something that's essentially inconsequential. Sometimes people miss calls. That's been part of the game for hundreds and hundreds of years. I just can't imagine why this would be something that you'd want to implement. And granted, they've been trying it out in the minor leagues. We've seen it go down in time, but man, you're really asking the pitchers to be perfect. And yes, maybe this benefits certain people, but how does this thing adjust from a player like David Eckstein, who used to be like a notorious short player, a player like Dustin Pedroia, a short player, to Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, people who are like 6'6". Is the strike zone bigger? Is the strike zone technically still letters to knees as it always was, or is it predefined? Like, how does that strike zone change is the question that I feel like is still a little bit opaque and still that they're working out. Man, but this is just going to make the game longer. Like, I just can't see it actually working. I really hope that Major League Baseball takes an approach like they did with the pitch clock and the ghost runner. To be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan of the ghost runner and extra innings. I kind of think it shortens games, but do I always think that I feel like it's a 50-50 shot whether it goes your way, right? Like, there's not a lot of bunting. There's not a lot of strategy. Feels like at some point they just kind of relinquish the game. But I hope that they implement this with the idea that they're willing to adapt and change it if it really is becoming bad. They have changed the pitch clock, regardless of people's complaints. They saw that it worked last year, and then they shortened the clock and said, screw it. You're pitching faster now from 22 seconds or 20 seconds, whatever it was, to 18. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how this will work. I don't think it's going to get implemented. You know, if it gets implemented next year, if it gets implemented in 2026, it'll be fun. But I hope that they're willing to try it out. And if it really is a detriment to the length of the game, that they will also be willing to take it out, you know. Also, haven't been hearing from many umpires talking about what they feel. Because if I was an umpire, I would feel like, what's the point about being behind the plate at some point? Like, you're just there to relay a message at some point. You know, not every pitch is going to be challenged, so I guess you're going to have that element of the game, and hopefully only egregious ones are challenged so that the pace of the game still seems swift. But, man, I would feel like kind of like this is an affront to the talent of your position. And the umpires have the union that everyone keeps talking about that is very, very strong, and, you know, you can't fire an ump. But, like, is this not a reflection of just like, hey, we don't trust you guys to make the good calls anymore? Like, if anything, it's like a shot across the bow to the talent of all the umpires in the union going, we needed to use technology to make sure that you were right because you were getting them egregiously wrong. Like, you know, the fact that they even had to have a verbal agreement to get, you know, Angel Hernandez retired, you know, whatever that means, whatever, if, you know, we'll take it at face value. He retired. But the fact that they let him go that long with so many calls, you know, this is why this is coming about, right? I mean, too many umpires were getting too many calls wrong, you know. We go back to Andre Galarraga. Not Andre Galarraga. What was his name? Oh, man. It was the imperfect game. This is going to kill me. Not Andre Galarraga. It was, let's see. Hold on for a second. Armando Galarraga. Andre Galarraga played for the Braves a long time ago. You know, Armando Galarraga threw a perfect game and then got the 28th guy out, right? He threw more than a perfect game, and he only wasn't credited that because of a bad call, you know, at first base, which really, really, really made instant replay get implemented faster. So this is just a reflection of the time, right? Like, there were too many people getting calls wrong, right? So we got to use the technology that's available to us to make the game better. I just hope it doesn't ruin the pace, because right now games are swift, they're more interesting, things are happening. You know, I was a little bit like of a naysayer on the bigger bases, but like more speed, more running. It's just making it the ban on shifts. It's making it more of a fun game to watch, and that's what it needs, because right now baseball doesn't hold a candle to football, to hockey. I mean, maybe not basketball. I'm probably not going to go there because basketball still kind of stinks. But, you know, sorry for anybody who really likes basketball who listens to the show. I'm just not a big fan. I could be. I can learn to be. I can learn to love. But yeah, we're hopefully it doesn't ruin the pace of the game, because right now it's really killing it. So. Yeah, just wanted to highlight that little thing because I just thought it was funny how quick it was. Plus, it was a familiar pitcher in Gerrit Cole, and just to see kind of that little wrinkle that he even said, "quote," it's a little bit of a wrinkle that they have to kind of fix. So he didn't seem very pleased by it, and you know, right now I don't know if I'm on the fence or for the automated strike zone. But anyways, before we head out and wrap up the show, I do want to say that. I want to give you a live update about it's 4-3. This is becoming a good game. I'm not watching the game because I do not have ESPN, and the blackouts are killing me here a little bit on the MLB. I kind of wish that they would fix that. And because as a proud cable cutter, cord cutter, I am not going back to cable, but. The Yankees are still trailing the Boston Red Sox 4-3, but at least they're making the game kind of interesting. I will say the Yankees Red Sox, a lot of talk has been spoken about their rivalry and how it's not the same. To to put this game on ESPN, I understand that it's playing to all those people who want to think that the rivalry is still as red hot as it always is. Yankees Red Sox is always a thing. But if we're being honest, did Red Sox Yankees really culminate in 2004? I don't feel like, even when they played in the wild card game a few years ago and Cole was pitching with that hamstring problem and the Red Sox kind of took it to the Yankees in that one-game series, it just doesn't feel the same. I mean, there is something about those games, even at the time, in 2003 and 2004. 2003 was one of the great series, right? Aaron Boone hitting the game-winning home run, sending him to the World Series. You know, had the Yankees won that World Series, probably would have been one of the most iconic baseball moments in history. I mean, it still is right now, but it probably would have meant more. 2004 was obviously historic for the Boston Red Sox. I mean, it really was fever pitch at that point. It just doesn't feel that way. I don't know if it's just because the Red Sox are not exactly a good team. They're sitting at 36 and 35. They're just hovering around 500. The Yankees are sitting at 50 and 23. They've been kind of struggling a little bit as of late, but you know, still fielding a good team so far in June. And June is that optimal month for the Yankees, right? Is that they start off hot, and then it's this month that the fatigue kind of starts setting in, and we start really seeing what kind of team we've got. But it just doesn't feel the same. You know, somehow Yankees Red Sox used to be top of mind all the time, and it doesn't feel that way. And I don't know if it's just because the Red Sox ownership don't seem really committed to making a competitive team. The Red Sox have been in the basement for quite a bit now. They haven't been that competitive, and maybe that takes a little bit of the edge off, because you're like, well, what if we're beating up on a team, it doesn't feel like it's really hard fought, you know, even though they're winning currently right now. So my argument doesn't hold any kind of water. But maybe it's time for ESPN to kind of let up on the Red Sox Yankees. There are very interesting teams and interesting things happening with different teams. I mean, even the Dodgers just got a series of setbacks with Yamamoto on the IL, and then Mookie Betts just broke his hand on a hit-by pitch. Maybe it's time to give the Yankees Red Sox a little bit of a rest. And I only say that because I want to watch the game tonight, and I can't because of freaking blackouts. But what I will do tonight is I'll put on a record, maybe one hand clapping, and I'll listen to that. With that, we are going to close out the show. Again, my name is Mark Powell. We are going to end the show just a little bit differently this time, and I'm going to actually fade out to a different song here than the current theme song that you're hearing right now. So let me fade that down. Woo! And I'm going to actually leave you with a song that I've written and featured on the show before, called Amanda. And thank you guys for tuning in. Next week, just before I go, there's going to be a little bit of housekeeping. It will be the 25th episode of the show. 25th episode. We're almost halfway to our 52 episode goal. And first off, thank you guys for the support. This channel has grown just a little bit, right? You know, it went from like 12 subscribers to 53 in 25 weeks, right? And I really appreciate everybody listening, everybody helping, and everybody trying to spread the good word as I try to figure out how to make this show better each week. So thank you guys very much for listening. It means a lot to me for anyone to listen to any kind of content I do, even if it is just me rambling on a mic about things I care about, things I want to talk about for an hour or so each week. So I really appreciate it. And with that, we will see you next week. It might be a little bit of a different episode because it is my birthday. And you know what? A guy who does a podcast also deserves a little bit of a week off. So it might be a little bit of a different episode next week, but stay tuned. Stay on to the show. Tell your friends about it. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Let's drive it up the charts. Give me good reviews. Only good reviews. Please. Please. I mentally can't take all the bad reviews. So with that, I will let you guys go. Again, this is a song called Amanda, and thank you guys for supporting the show. This is Powell Not Found. This is Mark Powell signing off for episode 24. We'll see you next week. See you later. Goodbye.
I think it's time to tell you. I think it's time to break the news. Oh no, oh no. I think I love you. You've been coming and going. All the while my love's been growing. Oh no, oh no. I think I love you. And all my pain will go away the day you come out and find me. You came along and sang your song and all my blues were behind me.